They said the king's daughter lived beneath the earth, hidden in a palace of silver where no sunlight had ever touched her skin. The king himself had ordered the palace built, and when it was done, he killed the man who made it, so no one else would know the way in. Then he sealed his daughter inside and sent heralds across all kingdoms with a deadly decree: "He who finds my daughter shall have her hand in marriage, but he who fails shall die." Many proud men rode out, certain of victory. None ever returned.
Long ago, in the kingdom of Tamun, there lived a great king named Ioremba, whose barns overflowed with grain and whose vaults glimmered with gold. His name alone could silence quarrels and stir fear in neighboring lands. But when the seasons turned and age bent his back, he knew death was near. Before he breathed his last, the king called his 3 sons, Andohemba, Teka, and Nimnengen, the youngest. To each, he gave a share of his riches, saying, "Wealth is like water. The one who drinks without thought will choke." When Ioremba died, the kingdom mourned him for 40 days. But once the drums stopped, the 2 elder sons forgot their father's words. They bought horses they did not need, held feasts that lasted from dusk till dawn, and poured palm wine as though the rivers would never run dry. Within 3 harvests, their gold was gone, their servants vanished, and hunger taught them humility. But Nimnengen, the youngest, used his portion wisely. He bought farmlands, stored grain, and helped widows and children in the dry months. The people began to call him the wise son of Ioremba. In time, Nimnengen married a gentle woman named Munguma, and they were blessed with a daughter so beautiful that travelers whispered her name as they journeyed through Tamun. They called her Okuma, the one who shines beneath the earth. And perhaps it was that name that gave her father an idea, a strange, dangerous idea that would change many lives. As the seasons passed, Okuma grew into a woman whose beauty seemed to mock the sun itself. Her voice was gentle, and her laughter, her laughter could make even the cold-hearted smile. But her father, Nimnengen, feared her beauty more than he rejoiced in it. He began to dream strange dreams. Snakes slithering through his courtyard, strangers stealing through the night, men whispering her daughter's name as though it were gold. So one day, Nimnengen called the best builder in Tamun, a man named Teve, and said to him quietly, "I want you to build a palace under the earth, a palace so hidden that only the spirits can find it." Teve bowed deeply. "I hear and obey, my lord." For many moons, he worked in secret. The entrance lay behind the king's compound, concealed by a thick wall of clay and stone. Down beneath the earth stretched wide halls and chambers, their walls inlaid with silver, the roof supported by columns carved with symbols of the sun and moon. When it was done, the king himself marveled. Even the eyes of the wind will not find this place. But fear makes men cruel. Nimnengen thought, if Tereve leaves, then another man may someday learn my secret. So he invited the builder to a feast. Palm wine flowed, roasted goat was served, and when Tereve had eaten his fill, Nimnengen said softly, "You have built what no man has ever built. Now go and rest where no man will disturb you." And with a single motion of his blade, he struck him down. No one ever found Tereve's body. That same night, Okuma was led down into the silver halls. Her father kissed her forehead and whispered, "From now on, you will live in safety. No man shall touch or even see you until one proves himself worthy." He sealed the door with sacred clay, and from then on, the girl was hidden from the world. But Nimnengen was not content to hide her. He wanted to test the world's worth. He sent heralds across the lands, their drums echoing through markets and valleys, proclaiming, "Let it be known in every land, whoever shall find the daughter of Nimnengen, king of Tamun, shall have her as wife, but if he fails, he shall die by the king's own hand." And so began the challenge of death. From near and far came brave men, princes and hunters, warriors and wanderers, all seeking the hidden beauty of Tamun. But none ever returned. Each man went down into the earth, and silence swallowed him whole. Soon, the people stopped speaking of Okuma aloud. Her name became a whisper.
By the third planting season, the challenge had become a curse whispered in the kingdom of Tarmun. The road leading to the king's gate was littered with the memories of men who never returned. Some said the spirits of the earth swallowed them whole. Others claimed the king himself slit their throats at dawn. Still, now and then another dreamer would come. A prince, a warrior, a fool, each believing his courage could conquer mystery. But the drums of mourning never stopped. It was in those days that a new traveler entered the land, a young man named Andohemba. He was not born of kings or warriors. His father had been a herdsman from the northern plains, and Andohemba himself knew more about the patience of cattle than the pride of crowns. Yet his eyes were sharp and his mind sharper still. One night, he sat by a fire at the outskirts of Tarmun and listened as old men spoke in fear. "Many have gone to find the hidden daughter," said one, shaking his head. "The earth eats them like grain in a mortar. The king's challenge is a death trap. Even the bravest hunters have failed." But Andohemba only smiled quietly. He was young, and youth believes that wisdom is simply another word for hesitation. The next morning, he sought out a herdsman grazing sheep on the hillside, a man named Ithio. Among the flock was one rare creature, a ram with fleece that shimmered like strands of gold under the sun. Andohemba greeted the herdsman and said, "Father, will you do a strange thing for me? I need your help to meet the king." Ithio frowned. "The king? What would a herdsman's son want with him?" Then Andohemba leaned close and whispered his plan. Bold, foolish, but clever. He begged the man to sew him inside the golden fleece with food and water enough to last some days and present him to the king as a gift. The old herdsman stared at him in disbelief. "You would risk your life for a woman no man has ever seen?" Andohemba nodded. "If she lives beneath the earth, then let me be the first to walk there not as prey, but as mystery itself." The herdsman scratched his beard. "The spirits will laugh at your courage or your madness." But he agreed. So at dawn, he took the golden fleeced hide, sold Andohemba within it, placed food and drink by his side, and led the strange lamb toward the palace gates. When King Nimnengen saw the creature gleaming in the morning light, his eyes widened. "What kind of beast is this?" he asked. The herdsman bowed low. "My king, it is a golden lamb. It is not for sale, but if it pleases your eyes, I will lend it to you for 3 days, only 3, and afterward I will take it back." The king, greedy for wonder, agreed at once. He ordered his guards to carry the lamb into the underground halls where his daughter lived, so she might play with such a marvel. None suspected that inside the skin of gold, a living man held his breath, his heart pounding like a drum of destiny. The guards carried the golden lamb down through a narrow passage, torchlight trembling on the walls. The deeper they went, the cooler the air became, smelling faintly of silver dust and damp earth. At the end of the tunnel stood a tall, sealed door of stone. Upon it were carved strange markings, half prayer, half warning. King Nimnengen placed his palm upon the door and said in a low voice, "Open Sartara Martara of the earth." And as if the soil itself obeyed him, the door opened with a soft groan. Behind it stretched a silver hall that glowed like moonlight underwater. They passed many rooms, one with walls of crystal, another whose roof shimmered like 1,000 stars. Then they came to a second sealed door. Again, the king spoke, "Open Sartara Martara of the earth." The door slid aside, and before them sat Orkuma, the hidden daughter of Tarmun, radiant, lonely, and half a myth even to herself. When she saw her father, she rose and bowed, her hair falling over her shoulders like night. The king smiled proudly and said, "Daughter, I have brought you a gift, a lamb with golden fleece. See how it glitters like the light of heaven." Orkuma gasped softly, "It is beautiful, father. I will care for it." She stroked the lamb, her fingers brushing the golden wool that hid the secret of a living heart beneath. The king, pleased, said his farewells and left, sealing the doors behind him once more.
Silence fills the underground palace. Only the soft crackle of oil lamps and the faint breathing inside the fleece broke the stillness. After a while, the lamp stirred. It turned slightly, and Okuma frowned. "Did you move?" she whispered, almost laughing at herself. Then, when night came and the last echo of her father's footsteps had long vanished, the fleece began to shift again, more clearly this time. A small seam in the hide loosened, and from it a hand emerged, trembling and warm. Okuma gasped and stepped back, her silver bracelets clinking. Then before her eyes, a man pushed away the fleece entirely. Tall, dark-skinned, his body lean and strong from labor, his eyes glowing with the calm fire of courage. She stared, speechless. He bowed low. "Do not fear me," he said softly. "I am Ondo Hemba, son of a headsman. I came hidden in this skin to find you, not for gold, not for glory, but because I wish to meet the woman whom death guards." Okuma's fear melted into wonder. She saw that he was both brave and gentle, and her heart opened like a flower to dawn. "You are the first to find me," she said, "but you must know, your journey is not yet won. My father will test you. He will change me and my maidens into ducks and say, 'Tell me which of these is my daughter.' When that happens, remember this. I will turn my head and clean my wings with my beak. That is how you will know me." They sat together through the night, speaking in whispers, sharing laughter and awe, the hidden princess and the clever headsman's son. For 3 days they lived in quiet joy, forgetting the world above. But joy never lasts long when fate is watching. On the 3rd day, the headsman Itiyo came to the palace gate to reclaim his lamb. The king, puzzled but bound by his word, went to fetch it. When Okuma saw her father arrive, sorrow filled her heart. "Must you take it, father?" she pleaded. "It has been my only companion." "It was only lent to me," said the Minengen. "It must be returned." He took the fleece and left, never guessing what he carried away. That night, the underground palace felt emptier than ever. But above the earth, Ondo Hemba threw off the fleece for the last time and prepared himself for the final trial. The next morning, when the headsman Itiyo returned home with the golden fleece, Ondo Hemba stepped out from the shadows. He thanked the old man deeply, pressing his hands together in gratitude. "You have carried me into the jaws of danger and brought me out alive," he said. "Now I must walk into them again, not in hiding this time, but before the eyes of the king himself." Itiyo looked at him in pity. "The king kills all who fail. Are you still set on this madness?" Ondo Hemba smiled faintly. "If I die, then I die knowing I reached where others could not." He washed himself, put on clean cloth, and went up to the palace of the Minengen, his head unbowed and his heart calm. When the guards brought him before the king, the great hall fell silent. The king, seated on his high stool, narrowed his eyes. "Who are you, and what do you seek?" "I am Ondo Hemba," the young man said, "and I have come to find your daughter, Okuma." A hush fell over the court. The king's expression darkened. "You speak boldly, headsman's son. Many have said those same words. Their bones now sleep beneath this palace." "Still," said Ondo Hemba, "I accept your condition. I will either find her or lose my head." The king leaned forward, studying the courage in the young man's face. "So be it." He rose and motioned for Ondohemba to follow. Together they walked to the secret entrance behind the royal compound, the same one the builder Telva had carved in silence before his death. Before them stood the great clay door sealed with signs of protection. The king turned and said with false innocence, "Tell me, young man, how do you expect to open this? Shall I say, shut, shut, shut?" Ondohemba met his gaze and replied quietly, "No, my king. Say instead, open, Satara Matara of the earth." The king's brows tightened, but he spoke the words. The ground trembled softly and the door slid open as before. They descended together through the shadowed halls, past pillars that gleamed like bone, until they reached the second door. Again, the king asked mockingly, "What do I say now, wise one?" And again, Ondohemba answered, "Open, Satara Matara of the earth." The door obeyed, and there, in her chamber of silver, stood Okuma, shining like the spirit of the moon.
The king's jaw clenched. "Indeed, you have found her," he said bitterly. "But the challenge is not over." He raised his staff and struck the ground 3 times. The air shivered. The silver walls rippled like water, and in an instant, the princess and her maidens transformed into a flock of ducks, their feathers glimmering like polished shells. The birds fluttered about the hall, quacking and circling in confusion. The king turned to Awondohemba and said, "Now, if you are truly worthy, show me which of these ducks is my daughter." Awondohemba's heart pounded. For a moment, he could not tell one bird from another. But then he remembered Orkuma's words in the quiet of that hidden night. He watched closely, and there among the fluttering wings, one duck turned her head back gracefully and began to clean her feathers with her beak. Awondohemba stepped forward and said firmly, "She who cleans her wings is the princess." The king froze. He looked once at the duck, then at the young man, and knew the truth. The hall fell silent. Slowly the spell broke, and where the duck had stood, Orkuma reappeared, radiant and smiling. The king could do nothing more. The law of his own challenge bound him, and pride would not let him break it. He placed Orkuma's hand in Awondohemba's and said, though his voice trembled, "Take her, headsman's son. You have won her by wit and courage, not by birth nor by deceit." The people of Tarmon had grown used to sorrow, to the sound of drums beating for dead suitors, and to the silence that followed each one's failure. So when the gates of the palace opened and the king himself stepped out, leading his daughter by the hand and followed by the headsman's son, whispers rolled like wind through the crowd. "He found her? Is it true? Did he live?" Yes, Awondohemba lived. He had broken the chain of death that hung over the kingdom. The king's voice thundered through the courtyard. "Let all the land of Tamun know. The challenge is ended. My daughter, Orkuma, shall wed Awondohemba, the son of a headsman, for he has done what no prince nor warrior could." The people erupted in cheers. Women ululated, men beat their chests in joy, and even the palace guards smiled, for they were weary of burying brave fools. That night, the palace shone brighter than the moon. Pots of stew steamed on every hearth. Drums echoed from hill to hill. In the silver hall beneath the earth, Orkuma and Awondohemba were joined as husband and wife. They did not need gold to fill their days. Their laughter alone made the palace glow. Sometimes, when they walked through the silver corridors, Awondohemba would pause and say softly, "Who would have thought that a headsman's son would find a princess beneath the ground?" And Orkuma would laugh and answer, "Who would have thought a princess could fall in love with a lamb?" The kingdom of Tarmun changed after that. The king, growing old and tired, began to see how his fear had made him cruel. He often sat alone before the sealed door that once hid his daughter, whispering, "Power means nothing if it cages love." And when at last he died, peace covered the land like dew over morning grass. Awondohemba and Orkuma ruled with gentleness, never forgetting the lessons hidden in the earth, that wisdom can rise from humble soil, and that no wall, however thick, can bury a heart meant to be found. And so it was said in Tamun for generations after, A man's worth is not in his birth, but in the courage that walks beside his fear. And that is how the hidden daughter of Tarmun became the queen who taught her people that even secrets buried in the ground can bloom again under the sun.